Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. I never thought I'd be writing about something like this, but here we are. I own a small cabin up in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina that I inherited from my grandfather. It's nothing fancy, just a cozy 2-bedroom getaway spot on 5 acres of wooded land where I spend most weekends hiking, fishing, and escaping the chaos of city life in Charlotte. Or at least, that's what it was supposed to be until the Homeowner Association from hell decided to take matters into their own hands. Let me back up a bit. When my grandfather bought this property in the 1970s, it was completely remote with no neighbors for miles. Over the decades, more cabins and vacation homes started popping up in the area. About 15 years ago, some developer bought a huge tract of adjacent land and built an upscale gated community called Mountain Vista Estates. They established an homeowner association that somehow claimed jurisdiction over all the surrounding properties, including my grandfather's cabin, even though we were never part of their development. I inherited the cabin in 2020 after my grandfather passed away. The first year was relatively peaceful. I drive up on Friday afternoons, spend the weekend enjoying nature, and head back Sunday evening. The only interaction I had with the homeowner association was receiving occasional notices about maintaining proper forest aesthetics whenever they thought my grass was too long. I usually just ignored these since they had no actual authority over my property. Then in March of this year, everything changed. I drove up one Friday after work, excited for a weekend of spring hiking, only to find a construction crew installing massive solar panels all over my roof. My jaw literally dropped. I had no idea what was happening or who authorized this work. I immediately confronted the crew foreman. "What the hell is going on here? Who gave you permission to do this?" He pulled out a work order and showed it to me. We were contracted by Mountain Vista Estates Homeowner Association to install solar panels on all properties in the area as part of their new Green Mountain initiative. Everything's been approved and signed off on. By who? I demanded. I own this cabin and I never approved anything. The foreman looked confused. "Sir, we have all the necessary paperwork from the Homeowner Association Board. They handle all the approvals for this area." "No, you don't understand. I'm not part of their Homeowner Association. This is private property that I inherited from my grandfather. The Homeowner Association has no authority here." He shrugged helplessly. "Look, man, I just install what I'm told to install. You'll need to take this up with the Homeowner Association. We're almost done with the installation anyway." I was livid. I immediately called Patricia Wellington, the Homeowner Association president, a woman I'd had the displeasure of meeting once at a community meeting she tried to force me to attend. "Patricia, what gives you the right to install solar panels on my property without my permission?" "Oh, Mr. Davidson," she replied in that condescending tone that made my blood boil. "As per the Mountain Vista Estates bylaws, all properties in our jurisdiction must comply with community improvement initiatives. The board voted unanimously to transition to solar power by 2024. We sent multiple notices. I've told you before, I'm not part of your homeowner association. You can't just make decisions about my private property." "I think you'll find that we can," she said smugly. "Your property falls within our designated coverage area as outlined in the 2008 Mountain Development Agreement. The installation costs will be added to your Homeowner Association dues starting next month." "I don't pay Homeowner Association dues because I'm not a member. This is illegal and I'm going to fight it." "Good luck with that," Patricia replied before hanging up. I immediately started documenting everything, taking photos and videos of the unauthorized work, saving the few notices I'd received from them in the past, and researching property laws. I also called my cousin Sarah, who happens to be a real estate attorney in Asheville. "They did what?" Sarah exclaimed when I explained the situation. "That's absolutely illegal. They can't just install permanent fixtures on private property without the owner's consent. Send me everything you have and I'll start working on this Monday morning." The construction crew finished the installation that evening despite my protests. I spent a sleepless weekend researching similar cases and gathering evidence. On Monday morning, I met with Sarah at her office to develop our strategy. "This is actually worse than I initially thought," Sarah said, reviewing the documents. "Not only did they trespass and make unauthorized modifications to your property, but they're trying to force you into their homeowner association retroactively. That's not how homeowner associations work. You have to explicitly agree to join and sign the covenants." "So what can we do?" "First, we're filing for an immediate injunction to prevent them from doing any more unauthorized work. Then we're suing them for the cost of removing the panels, trespassing, property damage, and emotional distress. I'm also going to contact the county permit office because I seriously doubt they got proper permits for work on non-homeowner association property." What happened next kicked off a legal battle that would expose years of homeowner association corruption and eventually lead to the downfall of Patricia's entire board. But before I get to that, let me tell you about the absolutely insane meeting I was forced to attend. I requested a meeting with the Homeowner Association Board to try resolving this before going full legal nuclear. Sarah advised against it, but I wanted to give them one last chance to fix this mess. That meeting turned out to be one of the most surreal experiences of my life. The meeting was held in the Mountain Vista Estates clubhouse, one of those overly pretentious buildings with fake stone facades and a massive chandelier that screamed we're trying too hard to look expensive. I walked in to find Patricia and 6 other board members seated at a long table like some kind of mountain property tribunal. Mr. Davidson, Patricia began, we understand you have concerns about our Green Mountain initiative. Concerns? I laughed. You installed $30,000 worth of solar equipment on my private property without my permission. Those aren't concerns. That's criminal trespassing and vandalism. A thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who introduced himself as Gerald, the Homeowner Association treasurer, cleared his throat. Actually, the installation cost is $47,850. And as mentioned in our notices, that will be divided into monthly payments of $998 added to your regular dues. I don't pay dues because I'm not a member of your homeowner association, I exclaimed. Show me one document where I or my grandfather ever agreed to join. Patricia smiled that irritating smile again. Perhaps you're unaware, but in 2008, Mountain Vista Estates was granted development rights for this entire mountain region. All properties within a 5-mile radius fall under our jurisdiction. I pulled out a folder and slapped it on the table. Funny you should mention that. I have here the original 2008 Mountain Development Agreement. Nowhere does it give you authority over pre-existing private properties. You can't retroactively force people into an homeowner association. That's your interpretation, Patricia replied dismissively. Our attorneys see it differently. Speaking of attorneys, I said, I've been doing some research. Did you know that forcing solar installations without property owner consent is a violation of North Carolina General Statute 22B20? For the first time, I saw Patricia's smug expression falter slightly. Additionally, I continued, I contacted the county permit office. They have no record of approved permits for solar installation on my property address. That's another violation right there. An older woman at the end of the table shifted uncomfortably. Patricia, you said all the permits were in order. They are in order, Barbara, Patricia snapped. Mr. Davidson is just trying to cause trouble. Oh, it gets better, I said. I also spoke with the solar installation company. They told me they were contracted to do 47 properties in this area. But according to county records, you only filed permits for the 32 homes actually within Mountain Vista Estates. Where are the permits for the other 15 properties? The room got very quiet. Barbara, the uncomfortable woman, spoke up again. Patricia, you told us this was all properly approved. We voted on this based on your assurance that everything was legal. Of course it's legal. Patricia's voice had risen an octave. Mr. Davidson is just bitter because he doesn't want to pay his fair share for community improvements. I pulled out another document. Here's something interesting. The contract with Solar Solutions LLC. The total project cost for 47 properties is listed as $2.25 million. But the Homeowner Association financial records show an approved budget of $2.8 million for this project. That's a $550,000 discrepancy. Where's that money going, Patricia? Gerald the treasurer turned pale. I never saw the actual contract. The budget was based on the numbers Patricia provided. This meeting is over, Patricia declared, standing up. Mr. Davidson, you will comply with the Homeowner Association requirements or face fines and liens on your property. No, Patricia, this meeting is just the beginning, I replied calmly. You have 48 hours to remove the solar panels from my property and cancel any charges. After that, my attorney files suit, not just against the Homeowner Association, but against each board member personally for authorizing illegal work and possible misappropriation of funds. I left the clubhouse feeling pretty good about how things had gone, but I had no idea that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and I would uncover a pattern of corruption that went far beyond unauthorized solar panels. That night, I received panicked calls from 3 other property owners in the area. They'd also had solar panels installed without their consent and were being strong-armed into paying. One of them, a retired judge named Tom McKenzie, was particularly furious. They picked the wrong people to mess with, Tom told me. I've dealt with corrupt homeowner associations before, but this is a new level of brazen. Count me in if you're planning legal action. Sarah was thrilled to hear about the other affected property owners. This is perfect, she said. We can file a class action lawsuit. And with a former judge involved, we'll have even more credibility. But before we could file anything, things took an even stranger turn. The next morning, I received an urgent text from Barbara, the uncomfortable board member from the meeting. "I need to talk to you privately." Barbara's text read, "Not at my house, somewhere the homeowner association won't see us. It's about Patricia and the solar project. There's so much more you need to know." We agreed to meet at a small diner in Asheville, well away from Mountain Vista Estates. Barbara looked nervous, constantly glancing over her shoulder as she slid into the booth. "I've been on this board for 5 years, she began, hands shaking as she clutched her coffee cup. Things started changing when Patricia became president 2 years ago. At first, it was small things, landscaping contracts going to her brother's company at inflated prices, mysterious consulting fees, that sort of thing. "But the solar project is different?" I prompted. "Very different. Patricia's daughter married the owner of Solar Solutions LLC last year. When Patricia proposed this initiative, she claimed other companies bid on the project, but none of us ever saw those bids. And that $550,000 discrepancy you found? It gets worse." Barbara pulled out a USB drive. "I've been making copies of documents ever since things started feeling wrong. The real cost per installation is around $25,000, not the $47,850 they're charging. They're inflating costs by almost 100% and splitting the difference between Patricia, her son-in-law, and someone at the county permit office." My jaw dropped. "Are you saying they bribed someone to approve permits for properties they have no authority over?" "Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting. Patricia doesn't actually own her house in Mountain Vista Estates. She's been using homeowner association funds to pay her mortgage through fake maintenance contracts. The solar project was supposed to be her big retirement fund." I immediately called Sarah and put her on speaker. After hearing Barbara's story, she was ecstatic. "This is no longer just a property dispute," Sarah explained. "We're talking about wire fraud, embezzlement, and corruption of public officials. We need to get the FBI involved." Over the next week, things moved quickly. Sarah compiled all the evidence and presented it to the FBI's white-collar crime division. Barbara convinced 3 other board members to come forward with additional documentation. Tom, the retired judge, used his connections to expedite the investigation. But Patricia wasn't going down without a fight. The next weekend, I arrived at my cabin to find a construction crew attempting to remove my solar panels. "Stop," I shouted, running up to them. "Don't touch anything." The crew foreman looked confused. "We have orders from Mountain Vista Homeowner Association to remove these immediately." "Something about defective equipment?" I called Sarah, who contacted the FBI. Within an hour, agents arrived to stop the removal. It turned out Patricia was trying to destroy evidence of the fraudulent installations. "She's getting desperate," Sarah told me. "This is good. Desperate people make mistakes." Sure enough, that same evening, a Mountain Vista resident caught Patricia and Gerald attempting to remove computers from the Homeowner Association office at 9 p.m. They called the police, who arrived just in time to prevent them from destroying records. The FBI investigation revealed the full scope of Patricia's schemes. Over $2 million embezzled from the Homeowner Association over 2 years through fake contracts and inflated services. Kickbacks from multiple vendors, including landscaping, maintenance, and security companies. Bribes to county officials for permit approvals. Use of Homeowner Association funds for personal expenses, including her mortgage, luxury car payments, and multiple vacations. Fraudulent property assessments to justify fee increases. But the solar panel scheme was her biggest con yet. She had planned to force all 47 properties to pay inflated installation costs, generating over $1 million in illegal profits. The fact that she had no authority over 15 of these properties didn't matter to her. She assumed she could bully or legally intimidate everyone into paying. The FBI arrested Patricia, Gerald, and 3 county officials the following week. The perp walk was particularly satisfying, watching Patricia being let out of her house in handcuffs, still trying to maintain her dignity in her designer clothes and perfect hair. But we weren't done yet. Sarah filed our class action lawsuit on behalf of all affected property owners. The Homeowner Association's insurance company, realizing how bad this looked, quickly offered to settle. The settlement negotiations were intense. The Homeowner Association's insurance company initially offered to remove the solar panels and pay $10,000 to each affected property owner. Sarah laughed them out of the room. "My clients have suffered harassment, attempted extortion, and significant property damage," she told their lawyers. "Not to mention the stress and time spent fighting this illegal scheme. We're seeking punitive damages." The insurance company's lawyer tried to play hardball. "The Homeowner Association's policy has limits. If you force this to trial, you might end up with nothing." "Really?" Sarah replied. Because we have documentation showing your company was notified about Patricia's suspicious activities last year by concerned board members, but you chose not to investigate. How do you think a jury will feel about that? They came back the next day with a much better offer. $150,000 per affected property owner, removal of all unauthorized installations, and full restoration of our properties to their original condition. Plus, they agreed to cover all legal fees. But the real justice came through the criminal courts. Patricia, Gerald, and their conspirators faced multiple federal charges. During the trial, even more details emerged about their schemes. Your Honor, the FBI agent testified, we discovered Mrs. Wellington had been running similar scams at 3 other homeowner associations before moving to Mountain Vista Estates. She would get elected to the board, embezzle funds through fraudulent contracts, then move on before anyone caught on. This was her most ambitious scheme yet. Patricia's lawyer tried arguing she had good intentions. My client merely wanted to improve the community and increase property values. By stealing millions of dollars and forcing illegal installations on private property? The prosecutor countered. The evidence shows Mrs. Wellington and her co-conspirators planned this scheme for over a year, carefully creating fake documents and bribing officials to avoid detection. The jury took only 4 hours to reach a verdict, guilty on all counts. Patricia was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution. Gerald got 8 years. The corrupt county officials received sentences ranging from 3 to 5 years. The aftermath brought massive changes to Mountain Vista Estates. The remaining board members all resigned, and the community elected new leadership with strict oversight measures. They even amended their bylaws to explicitly exclude all surrounding properties from their jurisdiction. Barbara, who had been instrumental in exposing the corruption, was praised for her courage. She became a consultant helping other homeowner associations implement anti-fraud measures and proper governance procedures. As for my cabin, the solar panels were removed, the roof was properly repaired, and I used part of my settlement money to install my own, properly permitted solar system, one that I chose and approved myself. The irony wasn't lost on me. Tom McKenzie, the retired judge, worked with state legislators to draft new laws strengthening homeowner association oversight and protecting property owners' rights. The Wellington case, as it became known, was cited as a prime example of why these reforms were needed. The most satisfying moment came about 6 months after the trial. I was at my cabin enjoying a peaceful weekend when a moving truck pulled up to Patricia's former house in Mountain Vista Estates. Her husband, who had claimed no knowledge of her schemes, though many doubted this, was finally moving out. The property had been seized and sold to pay restitution to her victims. As I watched the movers pack up their belongings, Barbara walked over to chat. You know what Patricia told me once? She said people who live in the mountains don't deserve privacy, that everything should be controlled and regulated for the greater good. I guess she'll have plenty of time to reflect on that in her new government-controlled housing. I've learned a lot from this experience. Sometimes standing up against corruption means taking risks and facing intimidation, but when you find allies and fight back legally and systematically, justice can prevail. The homeowner association industry took notice of this case. Several property management companies now use it in their training programs as an example of what not to do. And homeowners across the country have used our case as precedent to fight back against homeowner association overreach. My grandfather would have loved this story. He always told me to stand up for what's right, no matter how powerful the opposition seems. Looking at my cabin now, peaceful and solar panel free, until I chose to add them, I know he would be proud. As for Patricia, last I heard, she's teaching a prison GED class and still insisting she did nothing wrong. Some people never learn. But at least she can't force her improvements on anyone else's property anymore. These days, when I arrive at my cabin for a weekend getaway, I'm greeted by waving neighbors, real neighbors, not homeowner association enforcers. We've formed our own informal community watch, helping each other out while respecting private property rights. That's what real community is about, not forced compliance and fraudulent schemes. And every time I see my own solar panels, the ones I chose, designed, and properly permitted, I smile, knowing that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and doing things the right way. Update 2 years later. I thought I'd share what's happened since the solar panel scandal, as the local papers called it. A lot has changed in the past 2 years, mostly for the better. Patricia's appeals were all denied, and she's still serving her sentence at the federal correctional facility. Her husband finally admitted during divorce proceedings that he knew about her schemes but stayed quiet to enjoy the lifestyle her stolen money provided. He ended up pleading guilty to lesser charges and got 18 months plus hefty fines. The most interesting development came from the FBI's continued investigation. They discovered Patricia had run similar scams in homeowner associations across 3 other states, totaling over $5 million in fraud. This led to additional charges and her sentence was extended by 8 years. We've never seen someone weaponize homeowner association authority quite like this, the lead FBI investigator told me over coffee last month. Your case helped us crack open a whole network of corrupt property management companies and contractors. Sarah's legal career exploded after our case. She's now the go-to attorney for homeowner association abuse cases in 5 states. She even started a non-profit organization helping homeowners fight back against corrupt associations. Your case created a legal precedent, she explained during our last meeting. Courts are now looking much more critically at homeowner associations trying to extend their authority beyond their boundaries. We've won 12 similar cases using your case as precedent. The Mountain Vista Estates Homeowner Association underwent a complete transformation. The new board, led by Barbara, implemented strict financial controls and transparency measures. They even won an award for homeowner association reform and governance. We learned our lesson, Barbara told me at the community picnic they now host annually. The homeowner association exists to serve the community, not control it. Every major decision now requires a full member vote and independent oversight. Remember Tom McKenzie, the retired judge? His work on homeowner association reform laws paid off. North Carolina passed the Property Owners Protection Act, which specifically prohibits homeowner associations from claiming authority over non-member properties. 10 other states have passed similar laws. My own story had an unexpected twist. The publicity from the case led to numerous property owners reaching out for advice. I started a consulting business helping people deal with homeowner association disputes, using my experience to guide others through similar situations. It's now a successful side gig that pays for all my cabin maintenance and then some. Last month, I got an interesting letter from Patricia's daughter, the one married to the solar company owner. She apologized for her role in the scheme and offered to testify against her husband, who's now facing additional fraud charges in Tennessee. I should have spoken up when I first noticed something wrong, she wrote. My mother convinced everyone that rules didn't apply to her. I'm sorry for being part of that. The stolen money recovery process is still ongoing. The FBI's forensic accountants have traced most of it, and we've received about 80% of our restitution payments so far. I used my share to create a legal defense fund for property owners fighting similar battles. My cabin has become something of a symbol in the area. People drive by to see the house that took down the homeowner association queen, as one local paper called it. I find that pretty funny, considering all I wanted was to be left alone to enjoy my mountain getaway. The solar panels I eventually installed myself are working great, by the way. They've cut my energy bills by 70%, and 3 of my neighbors asked for recommendations after seeing my setup. That's how community improvement should happen, through choice and cooperation, not force and fraud. Last week, I received notice that Patricia is trying to get early release based on good behavior. Sarah says there is virtually no chance of that happening given the scope of her crimes and the ongoing discoveries of past fraud. Still, we're preparing to testify at the hearing if needed. Some people never stop trying to game the system, Sarah said. But this time, she's not dealing with intimidated homeowners. She's facing the full force of federal law. The best outcome of this whole ordeal has been the lasting changes in how homeowner associations operate in our area. The county now requires annual audits and created a special task force to investigate homeowner association complaints. Property owners are more aware of their rights, and associations are more careful about staying within their authority. My grandfather's cabin remains my weekend sanctuary, now more peaceful than ever. The neighboring properties that were caught up in Patricia's scheme have formed an informal association, not a homeowner association, just a friendly group that meets monthly to discuss common interests and actually help each other out. That's what community should be about. As for me, I learned that standing up to bullies, even when they come bearing official-looking documents and false authority, is always worth the fight. It's not just about protecting your own property, it's about preventing others from becoming victims too. Patricia's old house in Mountain Vista Estates finally sold last month. The new owners are a lovely retired couple who had read about the case and specifically wanted to be part of the reformed community. They've already installed their own solar panels, properly permitted and legally approved, of course. Sometimes I sit on my deck, looking at the mountains and thinking about how different things could have been if I'd just given in to Patricia's demands. Instead, her greed and corruption led to positive changes that will protect homeowners for years to come. I'd say that's a pretty good outcome for a battle I never wanted to fight in the first place. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.